Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from PewterReport.com, along with me, Matt Matera, today, also from PewterReport.com and from One Buck Place, because we were out at practice at OTAs. We actually got to observe, and now we'll report on everything that we saw at Bucs OTAs practices. It was great to be back, boots on the ground, and hear coaches yelling and the sun's out, football on the field. It always gets me excited to be covering this team and we can get out to practice and cover it in person.
Yeah, it was awesome to be back there. I know you were there for OTAs last week. I was there for rookie OTAs, so almost an extended version of that. This time it's more rookie OTAs featuring Giovani Bernard. But yeah, it's just great, even just hearing, like you said, the coaches talking, the whistles, the plays, everyone giving their all. It's, football is the best sport. And, we're really lucky and blessed to be out there. And it's awesome. What else can you say? Right.
You can't say much else. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff today, but that is the essence of it as we get back into the swing of all this, being able to cover stuff live again. Man, it's great. It's awesome to be out there making our own observations.
You get the juices flowing,
You really do, yeah.
You get a little more amped up. You feel the adrenaline coming.
You see the player interactions again, the coach interactions, and yeah, it's great to be around. And I know Bucs fans are dying. They're living vicariously through us. They're dying to know kind of everything that's going on with the team and how some of these camp battles are going to shake out, and how the special team situations and the depth situations in this team will shake themselves out, even if most of the starting jobs are kind of already settled and locked in at this point. We're going to get into all that, man. There were some impressive performances. Some of these practices are boring. Today was not a boring day out of Bucs OTAs. It was a great day, and there were lots of observations to be made. We are very shortly, probably as we're on air, Scott or Mark will publish the Bucs practice report from today, so there'll be a lot of details in there. Feel free to read along as you are listening to this podcast, but we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's in there and some of the stuff that's not, including a Jaelon Darden and Jaden Mickens story that made us really happy. I don't know if we can write about, but hopefully we can talk a little bit about it on the show, because it was a very innocuous story, but very fun story still. So we're going to talk about all this. It's all going to be brought to you by our friends over at Celsius today, but we're not doing no video commercial. We're just talking about it ourselves. That's all we're going to do, Matt, because Celsius is that great. The sparkling watermelon, you've got the blueberry pomegranate, great choice. I love the sparkling watermelon. It's one of the newer flavors I've tried. If you don't know about Celsius, it is unbelievable healthy energy in a drink, accelerates metabolism, unbelievable flavor, zero sugar, burns body fat. It has been a game changer for me as somebody who never really drank energy drinks. And here's the real kicker, Matt. My wife is trying to wean herself off of coffee, just doing decaf, off of coffee.
Wow, that's not easy.
She is doing it by just having a couple sips. She said 3 to 4 sips of Celsius a day. It has gone unbelievable the first week. She is stunned by how well it's gone. Honestly, weren't sure it was going to work. Didn't want to say anything until we figured out if it was going to work on the podcast, but we're a week in and it seems to be working great for her. She is thrilled about the results of it, but that's what it can do. Just a couple sips. That's all she does. And I drink about half of one really before my workout. So it's great stuff. Definitely check out Celsius.
I have my own Celsius story if I could.
Celsius story time. Wow. We got Jalen Darden stories, Jaden Mickens stories, Celsius stories.
Just a real quick one. 2 Sundays ago, my buddy was coming over. We're going to watch the PGA Championship, which Phil Mickelson ended up winning, for all you golf fans out there. He was able to watch some of it, but then he had to go. He works at a bar that's not far from where I live. And as you know, golf can be a little slow and a little monotonous. So you start feeling like a nap coming on. He's like, oh, man, like I'm going to be pretty tired coming into work. And he goes, you got any of that Celsius? And I was like, do I have Celsius? You bet I have Celsius. What flavor do you want? He tried the blueberry for the first time. He loved it. He's been a big fan of Celsius, but as far as the blueberry, that was his first time having that. He was up and ready to go and had a great shift at work. Wow, so, Celsius is helping the people out here.
You might have saved his job. Celsius might have saved his job. That's what Celsius can do for you folks. Go to Celsius.com. Go check out the banner ads on PewterReport.com. Click through, find the flavors, find the store locator, figure out where they are by you, and get yourself some Celsius. Change the game today. Changing the game. Speaking of that, Matt, Jaelon Darden. Wow, what a practice, huh? He was awesome. Catching the ball outside his frame, separating at the top of routes. you know it's cool when a player, even amidst that group, which I know there's not like any Pro Bowl DBs out there, even amidst that group, though, when a player is standing out to the degree that Darden is for now a couple practices, it's a really encouraging sign that you don't have to worry about the jump in competition from North Texas to the NFL. Now, will he be a star? Can he do that against the Bucs starters? We'll see about that. We don't know about that yet, but really seems like he's acclimating extremely well to the NFL level so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, he's making cuts all over the place. He had, as I said in one of the tweets that we on the video that we posted of Darden, he was making highlight reel plays, and he was, he caught one right by the sideline. And he's making these catches that are good because you have everyone around us watching. Everyone made that, those ooh and those gasps and stuff like that. Obviously, everyone loves his speed, and I'm impressed too. A lot of the catches he's making, he's extending his arms to make the grab, and he's not letting the ball come to him and catching it in his chest. He's got his hands out, and he's making full extended catches, which help him get to that next gear, and he's got a lot of those gears because he's a really fast player. That helps him get straight up the field, and that's what we've seen with him. What we enjoy about Darden is that as we said, he's going to be a yak guy. He's able to do things when the ball is in his hand. But yeah, he was just making some plays that you had to turn your head and be like, wow, this guy is something special, and the competition is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you could really be off to a better start than what Jaelon Darden's got going on right now.
It really can. I mean, he's had a great opportunity, obviously, because once it comes time for camp, I know those opportunities against top competition are going to be few and far between. It's just a reality of the deepest wide receiver room by far in the league. Just not going to have a lot of those. So he's taking advantage of all the reps that he can. Good for him in doing so. You're exactly right about catching the ball away from his frame. Shows a lot of confidence in his hands to me. That's the big difference between he and Mickens. Mickens is really a body catcher, and that works. I mean, Antonio Brown's can be a body catcher at times too. He's great hands.
Yeah.
But he knows how to do it with his body. A lot of guys catch with their body because they're not confident in their hands. That's not a B. I think to a little bit of a degree, that's Mickens, though. We saw him drop a couple today, and Darden dropped one too, to be fair. Yeah. Mickens also had a great day, though. Both of these guys, it was very clear, Darden and Mickens, uncoverable from the group of corners that were there. And keep in mind, Herb Miller's not practicing. You got the top four guys aren't there. Herb Miller's not practicing right now with a minor injury. And Cameron Kinley, who stood out at rookie OTAs, was not there. So it was Nate Brooks and D. Delaney getting whooped. They were getting whooped today in practice, Matt. It was rough going. I'm not sure either of those guys got a hand on the ball, and they were victimized several times in coverage. So it was clear Mickens and Darden are kind of a tier above everybody else out there.
Yeah, they were a dynamic duo. And like you said, Mickens was almost just as good as Darden today, so he deserves a lot of credit. They kind of look like Mike Evans and Chris Condon out there. And like you're saying...
All right, I'm leaving.
Just for a day, they kind of look like the production.
I'm just gonna clip that segment of the pod, post it on social, and just be like, "Wow!"
And then production wise, they were putting up what
that's right.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin can do. Yeah, the secondary for the Bucs in OTAs today was not pretty. You can't really sugarcoat it. There was one pass breakup that was by Antonio Hamilton, and quite honestly, that should have been an interception or a pick six, just because it's 7-on-7s. And
you're right. That I think was really the only pass breakup. Maybe. I mean, what's the safety's name? Wow, Lawrence White had a break on the ball on a corner route. I don't think he actually touched it, but he was kind of in position if the ball had been on target. But that was about it, man. DBs got carved up today. Did not see many negative plays from Chris Wilcox still. I know fans are wondering. I didn't see a ton of negative plays from him. So he was one of the guys that kind of, for whatever reason, didn't seem like he got a lot of the tougher matchups. They were keeping him on the right side of the field, and a lot of Darden and Mickens working on the other side, I think, has kept him kind of clean of those tough matchups for whatever reason. I haven't noticed them isolating him in those tougher matchups a lot.
And it seemed like there was a lot of confusion out there too between the secondary. A lot of times when the offense was getting these big plays, and Kyle Trask and Ryan Griffin had good rapport with the tight ends today too. I mean, obviously the legend grows of Ryan Griffin and Tanner Hudson, but it was really Kyle Trask and Tanner Hudson that were hitting it off today. But anyway, like what I was trying to say is you saw a lot of, guys looking at each other after a play, and not necessarily bickering, but certain certain, just like you could tell with the body language that they were kind of looking at each other like, oh man, you were supposed to do this and you were supposed to do that. There's one play in particular, I believe it went to Cody McElroy over the middle, and I'm not going to dox the player here, but the player that like audibly know a word not be said on I was going to say on air on this YouTube channel right here. But I think that just kind of showed the frustration that everyone on defense was kind of having. Is this was more an offensive day, and granted, with no pads on and no threat of like a pass rush going on here, it's going to sway towards the offense in the first place. But today was really tough for the secondary, and you can just kind of tell the difference in talent between a guy like Darden, who goes in the 4th round, and guys that went undrafted in the secondary. It's one practice, but we can only report on what we saw today, and that mostly was the case.
Right. No, I agree. It was clear. And Michael Henderson wants to know about the DB from Navy that he saw a clip against Darden that he did really well. That must have been from the other day. Kinley was still not there. Cameron Kinley is who he's referring to. Kinley was still not there, gave the commencement speech at Navy's graduation. And so he's still wasn't back at practice today. Bruce Arians told us after practice. So that was another reason why it was a rough day for the secondary. Yeah. Even some of the lower end guys on the roster weren't out there. So, but that's what you want to see. You want to see guys dominate. And I thought not only did Mickens and Darden do that, but Kyle Trask as well. I mean, he was very accurate all day. I thought he threw the ball extremely well. The corner routes they were going to the corner routes all the time. That's one of the tougher throws for a quarterback. Obviously not under duress per se in this practice, but he made a lot of nice throws dropping the ball in. And Ryan Griffin threw the ball really, really well too. Both of those guys were kind of in a zone, and I'm sure not having to deal with pressure and having a lot of space to throw to. Not many contested grabs in this practice helped a lot. But yeah, it was very much an offensive day, and those guys stood out. And you mentioned Tanner Hudson, and I think Tanner Hudson is kind of still clearly ahead of the pack for tight end 4. Had a really strong day, got open against DBs. I know it's lower level DBs, but he's a tight end 4. That's good for him if that's what he's doing, if he's tearing up these kind of practices. McElroy had some moments, dropped a ball or two, maybe. Didn't quite look as crisp at the end of his routes or transitioning from receiver to runner after the catch, but those things are hard to monitor in practice still a little bit. And Jarrell Adams still, to me, just looks kind of out of sorts, man. Like, not sure on where his routes should be, and he's a guy that's been around longer, I think, than Hudson and McElroy. So not a great sign for him. He kind of slows up at the top of routes and has to like really try and look for the football. It's not fluid for him to kind of find it in one motion. Couldn't track the ball to the sideline and keep both feet down on one grab. Didn't get his hands up on a hitch route earlier, and the ball kind of like whizzed by him. Got to be ready coming out of that. Maybe it was a little hot, but got to be ready coming out. And so there was just he doesn't seem like he's totally acclimated yet, and you don't have a lot of time to get acclimated, especially in a tight end room like this one. So I think it's still Tanner Hudson's job to lose right now.
Yeah, he was. Overall, I thought the tight ends looked pretty good, but there was no question that Tanner Hudson was the number 1 guy. To go back to the quarterbacks real quick, as good as they were, I think, and we talked about this a little bit when we were at practice today. The worst they looked today at practice was when they were throwing against no one, when they were just throwing to 100%. The wide receivers.
Yes.
With no defenders on them, which
super silly.
Really good sign when your first couple throws are the worst and you just get them out of the way. It was really good to see, especially everyone's counting out Griffin, but I like the effort that Griffin put in where, he's obviously the number 4 guy, but he's not approaching that for this camp. He's going out there and he's going to battle to. I mean, it would be actually Bruce Arians said you never know what could happen. You look at 2 seasons ago and Blaine Gabbert dislocated his shoulder in preseason.
Yep.
And then it's the next guy up. So I really like how Griffin performed today. I like too that not every single time like everyone's going to be open. So I thought he did a good job of. And again, there's not like pass rushers and stuff like that, but he's able to like extend the play and find Giovani Bernard and build the chemistry there. And what you're talking about with Trask going to the corners and deep down the field, that was a big progression I saw in terms of, and again, I can only go on what I saw when I was there for the rookie mini camps, but he was overthrowing passes down the field and especially in those corners on the first day of rookie OTAs. He was connecting on, little out routes to the running backs, but those aren't high degrees of difficulty compared to going down the field. And he really stepped it up on those throws today. He found Mickens a couple times. He found the tight end. So I thought that was a really, really promising thing there. And then as far as tight ends, like you said, McElroy really interests me because he's got decent size, I think. And I think he could be – his story is so interesting. He played like a number of different sports in college, and then now he's playing football now too. I wonder for him if it's still more about just like learning, for lack of a better way of describing it, like kind of like learning how to play in the NFL versus like years and years of experience. I'm curious to see how this training camp will go because he's a guy that he's had little bright moments here and there. He's got a long way to go. He's got a big mountain to climb with the number of guys in front of him, but it's clearly Tanner Hudson's job to lose at number 4. Should make for some good competition with a roster that it's all about the backups.
Yeah, feels like McElroy is just kind of that guy that's like, he's a big wide receiver that could maybe play tight end, and you like to have him in case a rash of injuries happens at either spot. You like to have him on the practice squad. But he's survived it. I was saying to you today at practice, it's crazy to me that Arians' offense asks tight ends to block as much as they do, asks what they do of Gronk in the run game, which is hard assignments. Again, a duo-based system, you're blocking solo a lot of time as a tight end. You're not necessarily getting a ton of double team action as the tight end. And so it's pretty cool that it's pretty crazy that as much as they ask of Gronk, if he were to go down, God forbid, but they don't really have anybody that can replicate that. All their guys after that are way more receiver than they are blocker. And you hope OJ Howard keeps developing as he did last year, but it's not going to be like Gronkowski level blocking, where there are a lot of tight ends around the league that specialize in blocking. And really, since Arians has been there, the Bucs have made no effort to add anybody like that. They've kind of just kept their receiver or the tight end room as it is, as mostly a receiving group, which is very different from what Arians did at some of his former, more recent stops. There was almost always blockers featured, so it's odd.
Yeah, and well, Anthony Auclair was there.
He was supposed to be, but
tight end blocking.
It never really developed.
Yeah, and then he got hurt this year too. He was a solid special teams player, and obviously special teams is like the narrative of this entire OTAs. But once Auclair went down, they just relied on Gronk, and that was about it. And Gronk became what he kept saying, I'm a blocking tight end, baby. That was his line.
That's right. We are going to get to some of these questions here. We're going to get to that Darden and Mickens story here next. But first, I want to let you know about Locker Room. It's a social audio app that is changing the way we talk sports. It's the only place for live audio conversations about the takes, rumors, news, and teams you care about. React to sports news as it happens, gather all your friends and watch parties for the biggest games, rep your favorite teams, and find your community. Better Sports Talk is just a tap away. Download on the Apple App Store and join the conversation with Locker Room. Great stuff from them. Of course, we are going live on Locker Room. We'll probably be going live on Locker Room to talk tomorrow night about some of the different things going down. It was related to the Bucs. We'll talk special teams. We'll talk OTAs. We'll talk some of these camp battles. But we always get into a little bit more. We peel back some of the layers, talk about some stuff that we don't talk about on the pod on the Locker Room show. So download Locker Room, follow Pewter Report. You'll get notified when we go live. All right, so we're going to get to these questions. Some great questions, by the way, up. Keep them coming. We're going to get to all of them and knock them out here before we wrap up this pod. But first, this Mickens Darden moment was great to me because it's right in front of us, beginning of practice. The stretch groups they did some simulated kickoffs with the jugs machine to start practice. Just those guys running under the ball, fielding it, communicating to the rest of the group. And the whole time that's happening, they each won 4 for 4. Nobody dropped any. Yeah. Darden made there were some tough kicks to track all the way to the front corner of the end zone, out of bounds one. Yes. And so he tracked them and caught them all. So great job by both of them in that session. But the whole time they're out there, Mickens is instructing Darden and kind of helping him, giving him pointers. Make sure you say it like this. That's what they'll recognize that I'm feeling, and say, short. So the guy ahead of you knows he's got to step up a little bit. So he's just all the details, right? Like painstaking detail, stuff that a lot of players would just think everybody knows this. He's kind of going over and over and over with Darden. And then after the session was over, everybody else goes through different sessions. The two of them are still down in the end zone just talking. And Mickens is kind of running Darden through all these situations. Like, what do you do in these situations? And one of the first ones he ran over with them was, some people might remember the Ty Montgomery play a couple years ago. Green Bay was playing, I think, Miami. in a game, and Ty Montgomery, there was a kickoff that went like near the 3-yard line, started to die out, a kickoff. And Montgomery went out of bounds, reached back in and touched the ball while it was in the field of play. That, a lot of people were confused when he did that, but what that means is the ball is going to the 40-yard line, and it's a flag on the kickoff team because the player's out of bounds when he touched it. So Mickens actually walked Darden through that scenario, which either Mickens had somebody tell him, or that's Montgomery's the only time I've seen a player do that. And maybe I missed one, but Mickens is kind of aware enough of everything about the return game to be able to communicate that to Darden and say, here's a situation that almost never happens, but if it happens, be prepared. I thought that was super cool moment where he was going through and showing him, you need to be out of bounds. Here's where your feet need to be. And you reach in and hits the ball and it'll be a flag. And he was like, and yeah, the guys running down, Mickens said something to the effect of, the guys running down will say you're scared, but tell him you'll see him on punt. You know, punt returns, that's a different story. It's like we ball out on punt returns. It's like kickoffs were smart. And then he walked Darden down to the end zone, and the best part happened. I thought he said to Darden, all right, what do you do if the ball hits and it rolls into the end zone? Okay, it hits in the field of play, rolls into the end zone. And Darden said something to the effect, we couldn't quite hear him, but said something to the effect of, I pick it up and I run it back. And Mickens goes, hell no. He said, Tom Brady is your quarterback. So he's basically just like, dude, you got to take that ball, kneel it, and then you're getting that ball at the 25-yard line, and Tom Brady can do his thing. He's like, you don't need to be the hero when Tom Brady's your quarterback. It was a great moment, and watching the two of them yuck it up and kind of learn from each other was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a very wholesome moment. It was a very cool thing to see, especially with Darden being a new guy. You know, these two guys are competing for the same spot as far as kick and punt returner. Darden is coming to essentially try and take Jaden Mickens' job. So
yes,
for Mickens to go out of his way and take Darden under his wing and show him the ropes and show him, you know, certain situations on how to handle things, that was really big of him. And it showed, you know, maturity. And Bruce Arians spoke about that in the press conference after. He was saying he saw it in Pittsburgh when Jerome Bettis essentially paved the way for Willie Parker, I believe, and showed Willie Parker how he'll take Jerome Bettis' job. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen because Mickens isn't just going to give it up, but it was a really cool thing to see. He showed him the out of bounds, I don't want to call it trick, but the out of bounds play that you could run. He also showed two certain ways where the way the ball is getting kicked, how your momentum is going to take it, like the best way to cut up field from there. Yeah. It was an awesome thing to see. And these are two guys that so far, they genuinely really enjoy each other's company. I mean, Mickens was telling him all the strategy and things like that, but they were talking about a lot of other stuff too. They were, you know, joking, laughing, dapping it up. If you go on Instagram, they tag each other in a lot of stuff on their Instagram stories. These two guys that are genuinely, they seem like they are friendly outside of just being teammates together. So that was really cool to see. And it happened, within the first 5 to 10 minutes of practice. So practice already got off to a great start with just seeing that moment there.
Mickens is one of those guys everybody on the team loves. I mean, Arian said it after practice. He's like, Mickens is just a hell of a vet. Like, he really likes him. He appreciates him on the team. The detail which he was teaching Darden was really impressive to me. Like you said, he was telling, like, when you field kicks, you can't like field it in the field of play and back up into the end zone. No, you got to go. He would say, you got to go. And he was explaining to him, and he was explaining to him, when you field a punt on the run, take a few more steps that way and you'll get everybody out of their lanes, then make your cut before you get to the first defender. It was just it was great stuff. It was a level of detail which he could have easily just kind of brushed by and said, this guy doesn't know this. Might help me get an edge. And that would have been totally understandable, by the way, in my opinion. But he went out of his way to do that. And I know Bucs would love to keep all these guys. At some point, you're 8 deep at receiver and you don't have a million options. But I'm telling you, they're going to keep 7 receivers on this team. I know that's crazy, but that's why I really believe their 7 are going to make the 53. And you're going to see one on the practice squad. And I don't know what the rules will be for practice squad. And I think sure they're hoping they can keep Mickens there. I don't know what his eligibility will look like for the rules if they go back to the way that it was. But pretty cool moments to start practice for sure. Edward Fernandez wants to know, how's KJ Britt look? Well, it was a rough day for KJ Britt. First of all, KJ Britt and Grant Stewart are the only linebackers here.
Yeah, they're kind of on an island out there.
Right. It is. They're getting all the reps. Kevin Minter, Levante David, Devin White, obviously not here. Joe Jones has not shown up yet. I asked Bruce Arians today, is there an update on Joe Jones, who was supposed to be his wife, and he and his wife or girlfriend, or I'm not sure, were having a baby last week. And Bruce had said that, and he still wasn't here this week. And Bruce was like, I haven't heard anything about that baby, so I don't know what's going on. So Joe Jones, I think Greg Alvin was telling me that Joe Jones, his Twitter handle or something is like @FamilyMan or something like that. So probably not going to see him until training camp, but he's going to take that, which he should. I mean, take that time to be with his family for sure. But so KJ Britt and Grant Stewart are taking all those reps right now. And now that the routes are getting a little more vertical and the offense is opening up a little bit more, it is really exposing these guys. I mean, they just can't run. Like, that's just the biggest thing. They can't run enough to play defense in the NFL, in my opinion, at a high level. Like, could they be good special teamers where you're just kind of running a straight line? You have your lane, you finish, you tackle, you hit, you get off blocks. Oh, that's absolutely still in the cards. And I can't wait to see how they perform. I just think there's no ceiling for either guy. So in my opinion, keeping them around on the roster to keep them off somebody else's team or getting signed off the practice squad is pointless to me. Like, if they get signed away to somebody else's practice squad, first of all, I don't think that's going to happen. Second of all, okay, you just move on, And so that's why I think when Joe Jones gets here, he's going to have a huge advantage, because this guy's been a great special teamer in the league for a long time. He stood out in that way when he's gotten to play defensively. It's been sparingly. He stood out. A bunch of Broncos beat writers and reporters, podcasters that I talked to were like, we never understood why he got more time on defense, or why he didn't get more time on defense. He was impressive in that way. So, it was just today was just rough. Giovani Bernard again, that's the guys you're going to be covering in the NFL. And KJ Britt just had no chance, right? A couple underneath routes. I mean, the separation was 5 yards? It wasn't.
Yeah, Britt especially, he was always like a yard or two behind, even when Bernard had the ball. Like, if he was actually going to attempt to tackle him, I don't think he could have even fully extended and got him. There was one play where Bernard, I'm not sure. I would have to go back to the video. It was either one of them, because again, there's only two linebackers, but he just absolutely put the linebacker in a blender and just, juked one way and then went towards the middle and, had the guy pretty much doing circles. It was rough out there. And you mentioned special teams. It just had me thinking of when we spoke to Keith Armstrong last week, and he said he liked Stewart because of I believe he said he liked his speed or his quickness. And he said, and KJ Britt is a guy that's just going to sock you in the mouth. He's that thumper kind of guy.
That's true. Right.
In this scenario, doesn't really best fit his skill set, where maybe it could fit what Stewart could do a little bit better. It's been a bit of a struggle, but again, it's so early. I don't think I'm ready to just completely close the book on both of them. There's a long way to go. But as far as special teams, everything you mentioned, it's not going to be easy. You saw the Bucs, obviously what they did in the draft, but you even saw with Raven Green, who we spoke to today. He's another guy. They brought him in. Yeah. Kind of more for special teams more than anything else, because he said himself he made the team when he was with the Packers as an undrafted free agent. He made it.
It's funny that you said that, because he really has not played a ton of special teams in his career.
Well, that's what he believes.
I know he does believe it. And I saw that and I was kind of laughing. I mean, he played a little bit in Green Bay, but he wasn't like a, four-phase special team guy that's going to be out there in all the units. And I hope he is that in Tampa Bay. That'd be very helpful, especially if he can do that and give them a little dime linebacker option, like that could keep them from having to put 5 linebackers on this roster, or maybe even 4, depending on how. But we haven't seen Green really even in a pseudo linebacker role yet. So they are taking it slow with him. That's what Green Bay used him as. So I would hope that Tampa Bay would eventually look at him like that. I haven't noticed that at all yet. So we'll see what happens with him. My concern with Stewart, by the way, I agree with you that he's a little bit better underneath than KJ Britt when he's rallying forward to the football. But when he has to flip his hips and get vertical, we saw McElroy beat him down the seam. We saw Adams beat him on a corner route. Just hard for him to flip his hips, get vertical, get depth. He's just not fluid like that, and that could be something that holds him back too in coverage. First is Tragedy says, will you go as far as BA did and comp Trask to Andrew Luck? This did not happen. BA specifically said, I'm not saying he said intelligence-wise, yeah, there's some similarities, but that is not a one-to-one comp. I don't like when people go, oh, he's a one-to-one comp. He clearly went on to say, I'm not saying he's Andrew Luck. Like he he even prefaced that, which BA doesn't even always preface it. Sometimes he just leaves it out there and he lets you do what you want with the take. But he actually said,
yeah, he made sure to clarify.
Yes, he clarified.
Isn't always
right.
BA's MO, not to just keep saying letters there, but yeah.
Ren says, how did punt protection look? They actually didn't do. Pinion's not here.
It's his birthday today, by the way. So
it is.
Bradley
happy birthday. Yeah, wrote about Bradley Pinion today in Bucs briefing. By the way, wrote a lot about special teams. Actually, Ren is probably asking this question because of my Bucs briefing column today, where I talked about punt protection. So whether he's asking it ironically or unironically, we did not get to see punt protection today. No punt work today. Did a little bit of field goal work. Jose Morales or whatever his name is. I don't know how to say his last name. It went 3 for 5. He missed 2 kicks. He made the hurry up one. He kept
missing left.
He was hooking. Everything was pushing left for sure. So we can't really see from our vantage point if the snaps are good or if the holds are good or any of that stuff. So we just know he missed 2 out of 5. And then what else did they do? Oh, the kickoffs at the beginning, and then some maybe like individual group special teams work, but nothing. Full scale.
Within the first 20 minutes of practice was pretty much just kickoff coverage. So
so that would matter there. Somebody said Grant Stewart for president. Okay.
I mean, he's a very well-spoken guy. Like he's very entertaining in his opening press conference. So.
Yeah.
If football doesn't work out,
we'll see. Maybe he and Cameron Kinley can run on the same ticket.
Yeah.
Capo wants to know, how was the running back room today? Non-existent, Capo. Keyshawn Vaughn, not there today.
Well, the running back room was great, but the running back room was just Giovani Bernard.
That's true. He's the only guy there. We don't know where Troy Maine Pope is. CJ Prosize's wife was having a baby, so he's not there. And then Keyshawn Vaughn decided he's working out with the older guys. And Bruce Arians said he hopes he makes a better decision tomorrow. So message sent to Keyshawn Vaughn. You are not Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette or one of these guys. You need to be. Giovani Bernard's here, buddy. That should be all some of these guys make it so hard, dude. Like if Giovani Bernard, who's been in the NFL for 8 years, is at OTAs, I think you probably need to be there. Like that's the guy you're competing with. And Tom Brady's not even in town right now, Bruce Arians said. So, there's opportunity for these guys to be getting work. And, and I asked Bruce straight up about Tyler Johnson as an example, and because I don't think we knew that Tyler Johnson was working with Brady. Now, he did post a picture of what looked like him on a field, but it was just a picture of him, I believe, on Instagram. It looked like he was on a field. Didn't say, I don't know whether he said he was with those guys or not, but this was the first we've heard like Tyler Johnson's name. It wasn't been in any of the reports, wasn't on Brady's Instagram stories, wasn't in Rick Stroud's story the other day of when they moved over to $1 to keep practicing. So we didn't know about that till today. So glad Tyler Johnson's getting those reps with Brady. But like if Brady's out of town this week, show up and get that work at OTAs, I think is probably something that he and Keyshawn Vaughn both should be doing. I mean, Tyler Johnson's got to look at that wide receiver room and start doing the math, right? Jalen Darden's balling out. Mickens having a good camp. What Watson offers on special teams. He's got to learn the special team stuff. I don't care what anybody says about the future with Tyler Johnson. I completely agree with that. But wide receiver 6 on game days isn't wide receiver 6 on game days to play wide receiver. He's wide receiver 6 to play special teams on game days. If 3 guys get hurt in the game, that's going to matter. But he's getting a hat, right? He's getting a hat before the game because they need him to play special teams. If he happens to end up playing wide receiver during the game, it's a different story. And again, I think Tyler Johnson's a baller. I've been a huge fan of him going back to college. I was like 2 rounds higher than he even got drafted on him. So I am high on his future, but I just think those are the kind of things that at the end of the day, when the cuts are as tough as they're going to be on this team, I don't think it's going to matter for him, but I think it might matter for Keyshawn Vaughn if he's not out here and other guys are impressing in his absence.
One of the last things Bruce Arians said to close out his press conference, he said, I wish there were about 10 guys that were here at OTAs. And he said, there are guys right now that don't even realize that they're in competition for their job. And for those 10 guys, I'm sure Tyler Johnson and Keyshawn Vaughn were probably 2 out of those 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Tyler Johnson's going to make the roster, but I also, again, fans kind of get attached to feelings and sentiments, and math is something that matters in these situations. You just can't keep everybody. So it will have to be, one of those situations. Now, Tyler Johnson can come in and tear it up in mandatory minicamp, and I hope that he does.
Yeah, but prove everyone wrong.
Right. And as Jalen Darden, as Jalen Darden gets more and more momentum, it starts to become, okay, Jalen Darden, how do we get him snaps on offense? And if he's the return guy, well, he's got his hat on game days already. Let's get him involved more and more in the offense. Oh, Tyler Johnson can't play on any of the special teams units because he barely played on them last year. Oh, like now we're 5 deep at wide receiver, and because we love what Darden gives us when he's on the field for a few snaps. And that 6th guy really now, even if there's 2 injuries in the game, is still going to be a special teamer really for us, for this season anyway. So then it becomes hard, right? You have to get more creative, right? Like, okay, that 6 guy's just going to be teams because we got 5 receivers we love. And we love Tyler Johnson, but Darden has given us this, and he's a return guy. Scotty's given us these vertical balls every single game. He's a threat in that area, like top 3 you already know. So then it becomes, okay, how do Tyler Johnson or Justin Watson? Well, obviously Tyler Johnson's a way better wide receiver, but Justin Watson, I mean, watch special teams tape from this past season. Really good special teamer, and Bruce Arians went out of his way to say that. So again, I'm not a big Justin Watson fan as a receiver. Tyler Johnson's light years better. I think it'd be crazy to cut Tyler Johnson to keep Justin Watson around. But if you have 7 receivers and you're trying to figure out who's active on game days, that's when I understand kind of where that perspective is coming from. Everybody's probably tired of me talking about Tyler Johnson.
I was going to say, I feel like we're kind of rehashing Thursdays.
I don't even remember. I can't remember Thursday, man. I don't even remember this past weekend. So I probably just repeated everything I already said. Somebody wants to know if Leighton McCarthy was out there. Was he out there? Let me think of the number.
Let's double check.
Good question. Leighton McCarthy. That name is familiar to me. I don't even see him out here. I don't even see him on the roster they gave us. Do you? I don't see him.
I do not.
But what was interesting was Elijah Ponder, nose tackle, 6'3", 275 nose tackle from Cincinnati, was working out with the outside linebackers. So could be seeing a position switch for Elijah Ponder, where number 44 looked like he trimmed down some. I think he's going to be moving to outside linebacker to join that group. So we'll see. We'll just have to track. I didn't notice so much. It's hard to get. I don't even really pay attention to O-line, D-line too much during these times, but during these practices when there's no pads on. But let's see. Isn't Mickens the guy who went down with 2:02 to go in the NFC title game? He basically gave Green Bay a free timeout. Could have cost us big. Well, he was clearly intentionally went down there. So that was something he was instructed.
That was a discussion we had. We all thought that was, he was instructed to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, why would he just, he wouldn't just slide down. It worked out. It wasn't what I would have instructed him to do, but yeah. I'm not sure what the exact conversation was with the coaching staff there, but somebody said surely he was told to kneel once the clock hit 2 minutes. No, that wouldn't be it. He's not. He can't be watching the defense and the clock mid-play.
Yeah.
On a return,
you're just looking up at the clock as you get smoked.
Lit up. Gonna get lit up and fumble the rock. So John wants to know. I thought they got Britt for that 4th inside linebacker for goal line stance. I mean, nobody gets drafted for that. If you're the 4th guy in those situations, you're also a key special teamer. So if it happens to be both, that's great. But you draft guys for special teams, at that
point.
Plus,
Todd Bowles would be the first guy to be like, well, we never want to be in a goal line situation in the first place. So why would we draft a guy for that?
Right. But yeah, in that situation, definitely, I think that he could be. Somebody said, Vortex wants to know, could he see us cutting Keyshawn Vaughn? I just really want to see what Pope offers, what ProSice offers. I'll be honest. If they keep 4 running backs, it's just there's not a lot of competition for the 4th spot right now. There's also not much path to Vaughn being one of the top 3 guys unless somebody gets traded. So I don't really see Vaughn getting cut right now. If I had to guess, I'd say he makes the roster, but crazier things have happened.
And also, wouldn't you rather see him see if he can develop more this season? Because if you cut him right now, you're kind of already showing your hand that you're going to be looking for a new running back next season, probably in the draft, unless you're going to re-sign Rojo or Leonard Fournette. And as we've seen with the history of re-signing running backs, it's not really the way to go. So, I mean, I think it's way too early to give up on him just because he didn't come to an OTA. You could be angry if you're Bruce Arians, and he probably should, but to cut him already. I don't know. I mean, let him play a preseason game first. What if he pans out on special?
Oh yeah,
teams? We don't know.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I didn't. I think maybe he meant by the.
Oh
time
yeah. That's my bad. That's probably.
But I agree with you that I would let him play this season probably and see. I mean, if you had a stud at 4, somebody like that was clearly going to help the team more. But right now, I don't see that. So I would definitely still keep him where he is. Flash Gordon says, I saw a headline that the Bucs think Anthony Nelson is going to have a breakout year. To 2 sacks or 3 sacks. I mean, that's all. What's it going to take? I don't think that's going to happen, but I like Anthony Nelson. I thought today it was funny. Somebody asked, would you rather be dropping into coverage or rushing the passer, Anthony Nelson? I was like, come on. And then obviously he was like trying to diplomatically answer.
An edge rusher? I don't know.
But it just made me laugh too, because Anthony Nelson probably never thought he'd be dropping into coverage as much as he is in the NFL.
Hey, JPP had 2 interceptions. If he asked him that question, he might say dropping into coverage.
That's true. You might. You definitely might. Big Cat Chat says he's joining late. He's a Jags Gators fan and want to hear about Trask. What do you got for me? Man, I think Trask played really well today. Again, it was just decisive. Ball's coming out. It was accurate. It not tight enough windows for me to get much observation on the arm strength thing. Wasn't close enough from where we were to be able to judge it a lot, but accurate ball on time, threw the ball with nice touch over the top, which I feel like is definitely one of his hallmark abilities. I think that's one of the big reasons why I got drafted. This offense, a lot of vertical balls, and he just throws that ball well. It's not really an arm strength thing. It's just a touch and accuracy timing thing. That's one of his better attributes. The intermediate short areas of the field, I think he leaves something to be desired at times, placement and velocity. But yeah, when he has to drop a ball in over the top, I think it's pretty. So the hope is if he gets out there, he could hit enough big plays to offset maybe some of the efficiency issues early on and then kind of develop from there. That would be my thoughts on Kyle Trask.
Yeah, I would just say he looks much more comfortable in the offense than he did 2 or 3 weeks ago. You could see he's got good poise in the pocket. Obviously, they drafted him because he's smart from the neck up, or he's great from the neck up, as Bruce Arians likes to say. And yeah, he doesn't look shaky or jittery at all or anything like that when he's looking through the process when a play develops. So it's all promising signs. There's a long way to go, but he was making a lot of the outside throws that we didn't see 2 weeks ago. So he's progressing and getting better day by day. And I think that's a really good thing to see if you're a Bucs fan or a Gators fan.
Right. Sadie says, Gio is awesome. Vaughn needs a ton of work. Why the heck would he not be at OTAs? Well, at least we have depth at quarterback. Blaine can step in for a game or two, and Trask can manage the clipboard for Griff. I don't know why that's going to shake out. I mean, again, I think they will keep Griffin around. It might be the practice squad, depending on how the rules are. I don't know, again, what theirs are going to be. Gio was great today. Like I said, I think the Bucs coaches have gotten everything they've expected from Gio he's brought to the table. So, hopefully that just continues. I think he's going to stand out at mandatory minicamp. And the other thing, I think he'll make those linebackers for the Bucs better in coverage. They're probably going to get a lot of one-on-one work, and I bet he and Devin White square up a good bit in the one-on-one work.
I was just thinking that's going to be such a fun matchup, Devin White and Gio Bernard.
Hopefully he's able to help teach Devin White some things about staying under control and man coverage, because that's still an area where White, he got a lot better in zone toward the end of the year. But when he's in man coverage, Levante David, that's a strength of his, and it's not been a strength of Devin White's. And you'd love to see if he can add that to his arsenal. It's just another thing that makes him one of the better young linebackers in the league. So hopefully there'll be some desire to rub off on White in that way, for sure. So what other observation? Anything else at practice today? Ben wants to know anything more on Travis Johnson. Impressed by his play a couple practices ago. Was that you and Taylor that were excited about him? Travis Johnson? I don't remember right now.
I don't think that was me. Taylor and I were at the rookie OTAs.
Okay. Somebody was excited
Johnson
about
was fine. He made a couple of plays. I wouldn't say he necessarily, did anything that would really blew anyone away. But, they're using him some little screen plays or little situations where they'd line him out wide and then he'd run 2 yards and just right over the middle to get the ball into his hands quickly and then see if he could turn it upfield from there. So they definitely would like to see if they can do something with him. And I thought he was fine. It wasn't spectacular, but he wasn't terrible by any means. So
clearly Johnson and Grayson And clearly Johnson and Grayson were behind Darden and Mickens. Grayson had a drop or two. He also had a couple nice routes. He's a great athlete. And so that always kind of stands out with Grayson to the point where he doesn't look out of place. Again, you were talking about a guy with like no chance here. He's like the ninth guy, and same with Johnson really. But Johnson a couple times seemed like there were some miscommunication, slowing up on routes, things like that. Not quite on the same page timing wise. Don't remember any drops with him. Don't have any drops in my notes. Honestly, don't remember even seeing TJ Simmons today. I'm gonna have to check with a couple other people. Do you remember seeing him?
Yeah, I do remember seeing. I remember writing his name down because I was just trying to see the number of receivers that were actually out there. Because, like we said, one running back, two linebackers. He was out there.
Don't remember much from him.
Yeah, he didn't really make a play or two. As I check my notes here,
I think those guys. Johnson is just so raw. Like it's hard for him to be. I mean, things about Mickens and Darden is even if the routes aren't perfect, they can just create space, create separation.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to work on some timing and when this route cuts and it actually breaks at 3 yards, not at 5 yards, things like that. But the natural ability is so clear where Johnson doesn't have that. So he's got to be a little bit more technical to get to where he wants to go. And it's just not quite there with him yet. So, I think Johnson will be the kind of guy that makes a few plays in camp that make people excited, or maybe in preseason. He's definitely a guy I'm excited to see if they do like some direct snaps to him because we know he simulated Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they use him in that way some. Mitch wants to know if the vets were practicing at the facility, not today maybe or not when we were there, but I believe Brady's out of town, Arian said, this week. So we'll see if the other guys end up showing up later this week and participating some with the rest of the team at OTAs. Arian's kind of a little bit frustrated today, Matt, as we kind of get ready to close things out. He was definitely a little bit frustrated today, and we'll explain why in a second. But first, my bookie wants you to know baseball and basketball seasons are long, and with up to 400 potential matches a month, you can make each and every one matter by having skin in the game with mybookie.ag. Whether you're placing a wager on your favorite team, player, or just looking for kicks, MyBookie gives you the best odds and tons of options to make all of your favorite sports a hell of a lot more exciting. How about the NHL playoffs, too? We've enjoyed those immensely. Bet on the Lightning versus, now the Panthers, they're done. They already took care of business there. So you can bet on all the Lightning series as they go all the way, I'm sure, to the finals again.
I had the Lightning money line the other night.
Did you? All right, there you go. Take advantage of odds on the NBA or NHL playoffs, or hit up the MyBookie casino for the full-fledged experience where weekly blackjack tournaments give you and your friends a crack at prize pools of up to $50,000. Go to mybookie.ag, sign up now, and use the promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, to get your first deposit matched up to $1,000. Let them know we sent you. So use the promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, to get that free deposit bonus and start your day off with a win. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. So make sure you check out MyBookie as this NBA and NHL playoffs rage on a little bit. But yeah, Bruce Arians was not really that happy today after practice. I guess maybe that's too harsh.
He's happy with the people that were here.
Yes, right. But he wishes there were more guys. He wishes there were about 10 more guys out there. And I think he's talking about the Keyshawn Vaughns, the Tyler Johnsons, and the Joe Jones. He did say Tyler Johnson's not, as he put it, quote unquote, a dumbass. He's working with Tom Brady. And so
he not a
that's
dumbass.
Right, not. We thought for a second he was going to say was, and we were like,
he's not here. He's a dumbass. But no, that was not.
He said he's not because he's working with Brady. And so he knows kind of where he's getting his money. And Aaron said, I might be working with Brady too. But especially guys like Vaughn and I think Joe Jones, he'd like to get out here, and obviously not knowing the situation with the birth of their kid. And so hopefully he gets him back soon, and CJ Procise. But there were some other guys. I mean, we don't know where John Molson was today, but we didn't see him out there. And I checked with Greg Allman even just to see if he'd noticed, and he did not notice him at all out there either. Obviously Herb Miller, Joe Tryon, not practicing just yet. Same with John Franklin. So there's some guys that aren't out there just yet. So a couple names like that. I'm trying to think who else wasn't quite out there in action. Again, I didn't notice Josh Pearson, but he probably was out there today, but I didn't notice him. But you'd like to have at least all those guys competing for roster spots out there. Maybe you want to see even a Ross Cockrell out there. Obviously,
yeah.
He's. a vet, so he's established at this point. But
right.
Here we go. Mitch wants to know any room for Julio Jones on the roster.
I saw that. I didn't think you were actually going to click on that.
Let's click on it, man. No, but if Julio Jones were on this roster, he's not going to be here. He's probably one of the few teams in the NFL you can totally rule Julio Jones off. But if Julio Jones was a Buck, imagine that. Imagine that top 4.
And just book your hotel for Los Angeles because, yeah.
If you can't win a Super Bowl, those 4,
right.
Football's a game of luck. That's all I'd say. That would be my conclusion, and I would give up analysis. But yeah, Julio Jones not going to be a Buck, unfortunately. Just is what it is. So it was a great day of practice. Good observations all the way around. A lot of guys standing out. Again, hopefully, as we get closer to mandatory minicamp, we get more of the top players out there, and we're able to better judge some of these standouts and see kind of where they stack up on the roster. But I don't know that you could say it could be a better start for Kyle Trask and for Jaelon Darden, at least at this point. I think both have really stood out positively. We haven't seen Joe Tryon yet. Can't wait for his practice debut, probably coming next week. Bruce Arians said he will be out there for mandatory minicamp, so that is a good and positive news. But if he's able to stand out too, it'll be a great start for those guys. And obviously Robert Hainsey, we won't probably learn much about him until training camp just because of the nature of things with the line. But I don't know. I think it's been an encouraging start to see Darden the way that I've seen him, see Kyle Trask settle in after that rough first day and get better each practice that I've been out there watching him. I mean, obviously we know what it is. We're not trying to put these guys in the Hall of Fame. We're just saying you want to see more good than bad, and we've seen more good than bad.
Yeah, you got a lot of guys out there that are just eager and willing to learn and just want to be out there. And it's great to see, and it makes it that much more exciting for when training camp gets here later in the summer. But it's a very encouraging start.
Yep, absolutely. Lightning play tonight, 7:30. You going to be watching the game, Matt?
I have a playoff game of my own.
Oh, playoff game of your own.
In volleyball. So we'll see. I'll definitely stay in tune with the score and stuff.
Outside hitter? What do we got here?
Yeah, outside
hitter. All right.
Yeah,
all right. I pegged you.
It's 4v4, so you kind of got to play everywhere. But I love playing up front. That's my way to go.
Gotcha. All right.
I like blocking more than spiking too.
Oh, well,
I like to.
I'm not very good at volleyball, but when I've played, yes, I agree with you. Blocking.
I was probably the only football player and volleyball player in my high school. That's
hey, that's a versatile skill set. That's a versatile skill set.
It's exactly. And you know what? The Bucs are always looking for versality. So
I was going to say, you might be able to crack that wide receiver room. Maybe not the wide receiver room.
I don't think I have the speed for it.
Yeah, that's probably the weakness. All right, good stuff on the pod. Tomorrow we'll be back. We talk a lot about special teams tomorrow. I'm going to try and be prepared to answer all your questions, Bucs fans, on special teams tomorrow. So have your questions ready. I've studied the punt coverage team. I'm going to try to study the rest of these units, write about them a lot in the coming weeks, but have those questions ready. If you want to know about special teams, I'm going to try and do my best to be able to educate you tomorrow on the podcast and let you know where this team can get better. Because everybody's like, oh, they allowed a big return against Detroit. Well, what actually happened? You know, a couple big returns against the Saints, and that's all people remember. They don't remember good coverage plays or anything. You know, it goes right out of your brain if it's just a normal, 3-yard return or a fair catch. But there's a lot that goes on even on those plays, and I'm going to watch those plays, and I'm going to try and tell you what's going on. So we're going to talk special teams tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bring your questions. Thursday, we got Mr. Bucs Nation coming on the podcast. Cannot wait for this. It's going to be a great show with James. Excited to have him on the show. I had the honor of being on his show last week. He's had Grant Stewart on since then. Go make sure you go over to Mr. Bucs Nation on YouTube, subscribe to his channel, check out his podcast. He does awesome stuff. And we are excited to kind of be doing this cross promotion with him and be having him on the podcast on Thursday. So it'll be a great time. Scott is trying to make his way back. The voice is still not there, ladies and gentlemen. So keep lifting up Scott and your thoughts and prayers as his voice tries to make an epic recovery. We don't necessarily have a ton of pods this week because the Memorial Day, we didn't have the pod. So we'll see what Scott's status is for tomorrow. We'll have James on Thursday. And then we'll hope that Scott's back in the rotation in time for mandatory minicamp. Rejoining the pod at the same time, Joe Tryon is trying to make his practice debut for the Bucs. So good stuff and a ton of fun as always. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.